Hello everyone, this is my teaser video for this coming Sunday, October 24th. The title of my sermon is Stumbling Block, and the passage is actually 1 Corinthians chapter 8 verses 9 through 13. 1 Corinthians chapter 8 verses 9 through 13. And the title Stumbling Block, one of my songs I really like from the group DC Talk is actually titled What If I Stumble, What If I Fall? And that talks about basically are Christians willing to support other Christians when the Christian stumbles or falls or sins and needs encouragement and lifting them up. And I always like that because sometimes Christians are considered judgmental. We look down when one of our brothers or sisters does something that's wrong, and so that song by DC Talk is something that it's a song I really enjoy and I try to reflect on a lot. But the passage of 1 Corinthians 8 verses 9 through 13 talks about being a stumbling block. But the passage is actually talking about meat sacrificed to idols. But the whole idea of being a stumbling block is something that we should all consider when we consider our role as Christians, especially if we are considered as mature Christians. Because this passage is really talking about when we do something that may cause one of our brothers or sisters to fall in temptation and fall into sin. And I'm looking at it as almost a newer believer. And that's something that we really need to be careful for. Because if you think of it like a newborn infant and compare it to a new Christian, a new believer, a new infant, when they start to learn to walk and talk, their senses are in information overload as they're learning all these new things, and they're really looking toward their parents as for guidance, to help them along that journey, that walkway. As they walk, they stumble, they talk, they learn the new things, they ask questions, basically, so they can continue to gather knowledge and learn. That's what we do with a newborn, an infant, as they start to walk and talk. Well, a new Christian is kind of the same way. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for someone who knows the path, knows the information. So they will be walking and stumbling, and they're looking for, like I said, guidance. They want to know who they can ask questions to. And they would be looking toward mature leaders. This is something when we talk about making disciples, is when a mature leader, it goes with a newer believer and just helps them continue their path. And they're going to have questions. There's going to be uncertainty. If you ever see a young child when they're first learning to walk and they're struggling with their balance and just getting away one way or the other, you have the same thing with new believers. They're struggling with understanding the right way and how to conduct themselves. And then this is times, some of the things that we try to do as mature leaders is we try to get our the new believers and get to know them better through maybe some social events or social offerings, and we have to be careful with that because we don't know what may be a stumbling block for that new believer. They may be tempted by something that you are not tempted by at all. And because you're not tempted by it, like in the passage, it talks about eating meat. If a mature believer knows that a meat sacrificed to idol is not really that big a deal because the idol is nothing, they know they can eat that meat and think nothing of it. But if the person is someone who believes that meat sacrificed to idol means something, then we should probably not eat that meat because we don't want to cause them to be tempted or cause a stumbling block. And that's what we can do in our regular lives without even knowing it. You may not have a struggle with a certain thing, but this new believer does. And so you go about and you do it without even thinking about it. They see you do that, and that gives them a temptation that you didn't even know was a temptation for them. So that's what I see as the challenge here. Are we tripping up? New believers and causing them to stumble without even knowing it? It's something we have to be aware of. Scripture is very clear about abuse of excess. Very clear about abuse of excess, and we need to be careful that we're not causing someone to possibly sin or lead them to something that they will abuse, and just because we didn't know that was something they struggle with. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about with this sermon on stumbling block. I didn't go into a whole lot of detail of what my message is going to be covering. You'll have to hear that on the 24th. I have some good examples that are supported by Scripture and good personal examples that I want to be able to share during this message. So I look forward to seeing you on Sunday as we continue to dig in these passages and we continue to grow on our spiritual journey. Hope to see you then. Bye.